This is 1360 AM. WNJC, Washington Township, Philadelphia. Philadelphia's Renaissance radio station. Brought to you from Forsyth Broadcasting. Or listen to us at WNJCradio.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today, the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Avacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Bonnier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Drink my wine.
can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots, and welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I am Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, as we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and around the world on the Internet via our Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And don't forget, now you can listen to our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. And joining me today, as he does on Wednesdays, is Jonathan Mosley. John, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Welcome. Glad to be here. I am here.
Yes, you are, and great to hear from you. Great to hear you there. So, John, there's a lot of things going on in the news, as always, but I think that one of the funnier things that I have heard recently is about Barack Obama stating that he learned about the VA hospital scandal from the news. And which reminded me of an article that you had written last November that appeared on the American Thinker about Barack Obama, the low information president. Do you remember that one, John?
I do. In fact, I believe it was prompted by an article, interview we had here on the show.
Yes, it was. It was, at the time that Barack Obama was saying that he knew nothing about the IRS scandals, and he knew nothing about the NSA scandals, and he knew nothing about Fast and Furious. In fact, that he discovered or first heard about these in the news, and we at that time called him the low information voter, and that maybe if we want Barack Obama to hear something, that we should put it on Entertainment Tonight or maybe ESPN, Sports Center, because these are things that he's most interested in, and not being president of the United States.
I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. They're starting to get to that point. Other people on the radio were talking about how maybe when he goes golfing, they should have somebody on the golf cart, telling about what's going on and that kind of thing. I don't understand how these people can lie with a straight face like this. I just, it's not whether I agree or disagree. It's like, are you serious? Are you really going to make that argument? I can't believe it.
Well, and the other thing that, Jonathan, that makes me laugh is Jay Carney. The Jay Carney's got the toughest, in my opinion. The White House press secretary, Jay Carney, in my opinion, has got the toughest job in the world, because he's the one that has to stand up in front of America. He's the one that has to stand up in front of the press and say things like that Barack Obama had no idea what happened at the VAs, the VA facilities, until he found out about it on the news. I mean, my gosh. Could you imagine having that job?
What's that?
Could you imagine having that job?
I can't, but obviously Tim Carney just doesn't care. He was, he knows that he'll, when the presidency is over, the liberal establishment will take care of him. He'll get a cushy job somewhere. He obviously, he will say absolutely anything from the podium there. Don't you think? Without blinking.
It's John, if it wasn't so serious, it would be laughable. I wonder how Barack Obama found out about Putin invading the Crimea. Where did he find that out about? What newspaper or what news show or what entertainment show did he find out that about? Maybe Saturday Night Live when they did a parody about it or something. Maybe that's how Barack Obama found out about Vladimir Putin invading the Crimea. Hey, John, I want to play a little bit of audio from a video. And this comes from our friends at Accuracy in Media. And what it is, it's Jay Carney going back and forth with Jim Acosta from CNN News. And then it's followed by some of the other excuses that Jay Carney has had to make for Barack Obama about not knowing about these important issues in the news until he sees about it or reads about it. You know? So, John Forsythe Jr., please play that. We'll put you on hold, John.
Just to follow up on that, when was the president first made aware of these problems, of these fraudulent lists that were being kept to hide the wait times? When was he first made aware of those problems? And when did other White House officials, top White House officials, become aware of these problems?
When you say these problems, the fact that there have been bureaucracies,
some time, but the fraudulent
the specific allegations that I think were reported first by your network out of Phoenix, I believe we learned about them through the reports. I will double check if that's not the case, but that's when we learned about them, and that's when, as I understand it, Secretary Shinseki learned about them and immediately took the action that he has taken, including instigating his own review, or initiating his own review, but also requesting that the Inspector General investigate. And I think, again, I would point you to his testimony as well as the Inspector General's testimony last week.
And so you heard on the news about this story that Fast and Furious.
Everyone knows, the President did not know about this tactic until he heard about it on through the media.
Something we found out about along with all of you.
He found out about the news reports yesterday on the road.
When did you first learn that the IRS was targeting conservative political groups?
I first learned about it from the same news reports that I think most people learned about this. I think it was on Friday.
When did he know that piece of information?
When it came out in the news a week ago Friday, I think.
I certainly did not know anything about the IG report before the IG report had been leaked through the press.
Well, there you go, John Mosley, and that was a little montage of all the excuses that Barack Obama has made about finding out about these world events long after the rest of us do. It is like I said, John, if it wasn't such a crime, if it wasn't so dangerous, it would be laughable. John, right now I'm looking at an article from the Washington Times that Barack Obama knew. He was told about the Veterans Affairs health scandals as far back as 2008. In 2008, he was warned about the long waits at the VA. And so now it's coming out, or now that he's saying that, wow, you know, we just found out about it when we heard your news reports. What a joke.
Right. Now, I think they were saying in that exchange, when did he find out about the false lists? Not just the problems in general, but as I understand it, there were whistleblowers who did tell them up the line. Did tell, if they didn't want to know, because they didn't want to know, is that there were whistleblowers before it went to the media telling people that this was going on.
Well, I'm reading from this article from the Washington Times, John. The Obama administration received clear notice more than 5 years ago that VA medical facilities were reporting inaccurate waiting times and experiencing schedule failures that threatened to deny veterans timely health care problems that have turned into a growing scandal. The Veterans Affairs officials warned the Obama-Biden transition team in the weeks after the 2008 elections that the department shouldn't trust the waiting times that its facilities were reporting. And this is from the Washington Times.
Wow, okay, that's different then. And of course, a competent manager would then say, even if it doesn't, even if it only tells some of the story, it should have been, and deal with it, and they would have found out everything very shortly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you may remember, part of the problem is that Obama has no experience at anything except just being,
a community organizer.
But the only experience he has is his skin color, which is sad to say, but that's the the upside down world we live in. But the thing is that June 19th, remember, we had Ed Klein on here. You arranged that with his book, The Amateur, and we talked about how he is a great faker, but he just doesn't have any experience. And this is another example of the amateur. And I noted here, I've forgotten in the article that you pulled up that I wrote before. I don't always remember what I wrote. You're still there, right, Rick?
Yeah, I'm still here, and you wrote it on November 14th, 2013. As I said, from American thinker Barack Obama, low information president.
And part of, in addition to Ed Klein being prompted, this article being prompted by Ed Klein's book and our interview, it was also prompted by your suggestion that maybe since Barack Obama is just really not that interested in the job of being president, maybe he should transition to being the commissioner of the National Basketball Association, a job that he really is interested in. And Michelle,
I think he would make a great commissioner. I think he would make a great commissioner for the NBA. I really do. You know, at that time, David Stern was retiring, and that job was opening up. By the way, it paid pretty good too. It paid over $20 million a year, and that that would, in my opinion, I think that would probably be Barack Obama's ideal job.
There has to be a place for everybody.
I think he knows more about the NBA. I think he knows more about NCAA basketball than he does about Putin or Russia or the IRS scandals or Fast and Furious scandals, the NSA scandals. Then he would make a great commissioner of the NBA.
I wonder if we...
Oh, John, hold on. Guess what, John? We're up against our first break.
All right.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. And we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station here in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet. Via our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, VigilantLibertyRadio.us, and don't forget you can hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Hey, no extra charge for that call, so call from a phone where you have unlimited access. There you go. Please don't go away. John and I will be right back.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. And program note, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening, please log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. And at 5 p.m., when our live broadcast ends today, you can log on to CPRWorldwideMedia.com and hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon, place for that is at vigilantlibertyradio.us. And don't forget, you can hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. And, you know, John Mosley, I'm looking at this article from the Washington Times. It says here, the 2008 transition report referred to the VA Inspector General recommendations to test the accuracy of reported waiting times. Such test, the report noted, could prompt action if results reveal questionable differences between the dates shown in the medical records and the dates in the Veteran Health Administration's scheduling system. So Barack Obama can't run around, John Mosley, and say he didn't know about this. He was told in 2008. His transition team was told in 2008. You know, John Mosley, I want to set up a challenge out there for anyone to tell me one single thing that has gone right during the Obama administration. One thing. Just tell me one thing that he has done right. One thing that's turned out right in this administration. You know, John Mosley, if I voted for Barack Obama, I would be embarrassed. I would be embarrassed to admit to it.
Well, I think you're right. There are things that we could have said at the moment were good, but then if you wait long enough, you find out there's really something else going on. Like
one thing, John. Tell me one thing that he's done that has turned out to be good and correct. One thing, John Mosley. One thing. Come on, John. You're a college-educated man. You should be able to think of one thing that Barack Obama's done right.
You know, like I said, there are things that at the moment the news broke, you might think, oh, that's good. And then you wait a little while, and you find out that it's a disaster. So I don't think I can think of anything.
I invite anyone out there, if you know of anything that Barack Obama's done right, give me a call. Tell me, straighten me out. Okay, correct me. The number is 856-227-1360. And John, I bet we don't get a call. I bet we don't get a call. Because I doubt anyone out there, in all honesty, can find a single thing that Barack Obama has done right in his 5 years in the White House.
Well, I mean, the only thing you could say is they got Bin Laden, but that would have happened without, you know, if that was already well in motion. That he didn't contribute anything to that. That's about it.
That's about it. All right. So, John Mosley, what else is going on your radar screen this day, my friend?
All right. Well, anyway, so there's a lot going on. I don't think we have time to go in. I just wrote this morning an article on whether the Tea Party is winning, and I say yes, because people are misunderstanding all this, what's going on in the primaries. I don't think in 5 minutes I can go through all that, but I think today that we've had years where we're pruning the tree, and you don't prune the tree constantly; you let it grow. And I think everybody's agreed that we need to. Now is not a time to prune some of the bad branches. We got rid of some of the worst in years past, and I think that the establishment is kidding themselves if they think that the Tea Party has put down its pruning shears. We're going to try to win the Senate this year, but for those who go off the reservation, they're not going to be safe from being pruned in the future. But I go through all that analysis and what I just submitted this morning when I should have been doing some other work. So anyway, who knows? Oh, I was going to say too about Barack Obama. I was thinking, I wonder if we should buy commercial time on what channels. Some of the entertainment. Maybe the E channel or some of these channels when he's probably watching instead of doing his job. Maybe what we could do is get the NSC, the National Security Council, or the State Department to put ads in the middle of some of his shows. You think?
Oh, I think that would be a possibility. Sports Center, the NBA is having their basketball playoffs now. I'm sure he's watching that. I'm sure he's watching every game, and can tell you with each and every player how many points each and every player scored. So that might be an idea, John.
I don't know if he could. Yeah, I don't know if he could hire the players to deliver some of the talking points from his briefing in between the things. Anyway, we got a lot of things going on. Very disappointed to hear that Dinesh D'Souza pled guilty, and a lot of warnings there. Of course, apparently he admits that he gave money to a couple friends to turn around and donate to a candidacy. You can't do that. You have to be honest about where the money came from. But of course, nobody who's thinking believes that they would have just somehow stumbled across that if they weren't scouring every aspect of his life to see if he was guilty of jaywalking or had not made his bed or flossed his teeth or something. There's no way that they would have found that if they weren't targeting him, and that's a sobering thing as well. I also, have had my issues with some lawyers because by the time it gets to an indictment and you're a political figure, you're screwed. It's too late. The only time to deal with that is before it gets this far, and obviously I don't think he was well served in that regard. But
I agree with you, John, and I think he has become a target. He became a target because of his book and his movie, 2016, Obama's America. If it wasn't for that, this indictment would have never come down.
Well, as other people have said as well, but as I've argued to people that don't listen years ago, if you're looking at a trial that's going to go on for a year and it's probably going to bankrupt you because he made a whole lot of money on the movie and everything, but still, it could cost you every penny you owe and mortgage your future and everything else. And then they say you could be facing 5 years in jail. It's like the Godfather movie. Make him a deal he can't refuse. People think, oh, I'm going to fight it and everything like that. But then when you're faced with that scenario, you really don't have a choice. They've got you over a barrel. Sometimes they go in and indict your mother and everybody and everything like that, and you either have a choice of letting everybody watching them all go through that, or you're going to plead guilty. So it's a rough game and scary.
All right, hey John. Very shortly we do have to go to commercial. We didn't even get to our lineup of guests, but we do have a great show lined up, and so let's go into a break right now, John Mosley. And as a reminder, you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philly, and around the world on the internet via our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Don't forget, check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com and CCRShow.com. Don't go away. John and I will be right back with our first guest.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Manier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations. You can call
the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening, please log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. And at 5 p.m., when we end our live broadcast, if you'd like to hear a replay of yesterday's show, switch on over to CPRWorldwideMedia.com. And you could also hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon at vigilantlibertyradio.us. And don't forget, you can now hear our show anytime, day or night, from any telephone at 832-999-1199. There's no extra charge for this call, so if you call from a phone that you have unlimited access, there you go. You're in like Flynn. And with that, John Mosley, we do have our first guest with us today. Will you please make the introduction?
Yes, thank you. Dr. Robert N. Charette is a contributing editor for IEE Spectrum. That's the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. His blog, Risk Factor, on the publication site, covers risk analysis and features, daily news, updates, and analysis on computing and IT projects, information technology, software and system failures, successes and innovations, security threats, and more. Dr. Charette is the founder of the ITA-BHIA Corporation. With nearly 40 years of experience, he's an authority and pioneer in risk management, information systems and technology, systems engineering, management of large scale, and the like. Thank you for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and welcome Dr. Robert Charette.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Rick.
And is that the right way to pronounce your last name?
Yeah, Charette. Anything is close is good.
All right, I've heard different things. Well, we've invited you here today because you did a fairly groundbreaking study on immigration and the labor market for high-tech professionals, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, called STEM. And we wanted to ask you about that. Since we asked you, I think tried to get you about 10 days ago, this is sort of blowing up starting to get into the mainstream media, but we were there ahead of that. We are the bandwagon. You are the bandwagon, really. So, in fact, let me start out. What's the title and the date of your article, just to put things in context?
Well, the title is The STEM Crisis is a Myth, and it came out last September, 1st of September. It's on the web, and if anybody were to type in the STEM Crisis is a Myth and IEEE Spectrum, they would find it pretty rapidly.
But as I said, it takes this long sometimes for it to circulate around. I wanted to get out that you were way ahead of the game, and other people are picking that up. There have been a few articles here and there, but it's starting to get out there, and it's really kind of extraordinary that this myth ever got going. But let's go through what you found. Well, first of all, let me set this up. The IEEE, of course, is not a political organization, as I understand it. Your interest is within your own industry and profession, and looking at what goes on in your profession. That's fair to say, right?
Right. It's a professional society. Right. It's not a lobbying organization. It's not a think tank. It's really the largest professional organization, technical professional organization in the world, I believe, and it's international. It's not just the U.S. It goes across the globe, and its focus is on science and technologies and things that it's been around for quite a long time. And so we're less interested in the politics of things, is more into what does the data show.
Right, and so some of us on this show and listening will be more likely to interpret this in terms of political analysis. You know who you are, Rick Schrader, and but your goal is just the data. And of course, one of the issues here is the idea that there's not enough high-tech professionals, and therefore at the political level, there's discussion about making changes to the immigration system based on the supposed crisis. And I have friends who are out of work, very experienced computer professionals. One friend of mine just lost his job at the as a contractor at the Pentagon after some time of it petering out there. So I know this affects real people. But let's go through your study, what you did affecting the high-tech and STEM markets. First of all, I think it's fair to say you do note at some length in your article that the data is a little problematic. You want to explain that?
Yeah, part of the problem when you're trying to do something in the area of STEM is that there's a number of different definitions floating around, which makes it fairly difficult to unravel the actual state of play. For instance, the Commerce Department uses a particular definition which looks at computer scientists, mathematicians, engineers, life and physical scientists. And according to that count, there's about 7.6 million people who work in STEM jobs in the year 2010. And that's basically the data right now, you're normally a couple of years behind in the actual data. If you take a look at the National Science Foundation, which looks at science and engineering workforce issues, they say that there's 12.4 million individuals, because what they do is they count healthcare workers, of which there's about 4.5 million, as well as social scientists. And then if you take a look at the Brookings Institute, one of the think tanks down in D.C., they have a much broader view, and they say that there's about 26 million individuals working in STEM jobs. And what they do is they count basically anybody who has work that involves science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. So when you say that there's a shortage, it all depends on, the first question you have to ask is, well, what's your definition of STEM, and who are you counting and who are you leaving out?
But what's happening, especially in our political world, is that a lot of Republican donors are pushing Republican politicians to have comprehensive illegal immigration reform, which means that therefore they have to get amnesty to get Democrat votes, all on the basis that the big businesses are telling them they can't hire enough high-tech workers and they have to import them. So did you go through in your article that there are people trained in these fields who are not actually working in these fields?
Yeah, there's if you take a look, we'll just pick one particular year. This is basically the data from the 2010 period. Is there were studies done by Georgetown University that looked at what would be the prediction of STEM vacancies, all the jobs that were going to be required, and they estimated that originally in their report they estimated about 275,000 STEM vacancies per year, of which about 3/4 or thereabouts would be filled by BS people with bachelor's degrees. Now, with the recession kind of continuing, or although officially it's not a recession, but with the economic troubles continuing, they revised that down to about 250,000. Now, against that 250,000 jobs, you have what's called the pipeline, the people who are being trained at universities, at two-year schools with associate degrees, masters, PhDs, and others. And if you take a look at the pipeline, there's about 440,000 people coming out every year right now competing for those 250,000 jobs. Including in that pipeline is about 50,000 H-1B visa holders. And not counted in the pipeline, but something that the Obama administration has been trying to do, which I think is a good thing, is to get about 160,000 or thereabouts veterans who are trained in technology military that with certification could also compete for these jobs. So you're talking somewhere between, say, 400,000 and 560,000, not counting H-1B visas, going after basically about 250,000 jobs. So right now you have almost 2.5 potential applicants for every opening. And you also have, because STEM workers tend not to stay in their jobs for a long period of time, you have about 11 million STEM degree holders who are currently working outside of STEM. So it's a kind of an interesting argument to say that there's a large shortfall in STEM workers or people coming out of the university systems when you have basically 2 for 1, two applicants for every job. So how you can make an argument that you need to have a lot more H-1B visas or immigrants coming in to compete for these jobs is a little bit hard to understand.
Well, I think we're just about time before a 2-minute break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about what is the evidence on the other side, because I think my understanding it's anecdotal, and what you think is going on here. And I understand, Rick Trader, are we on a break?
Yeah, we're right up against our break, John, so we will take it now. Hey, Bob, can you hold for just 2 minutes through the break, please?
Certainly.
All right, you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, the way we do, Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, around the world on the internet. Hey, program note, this coming Monday, Memorial Day, we are doing a live show, and we've got a great guest for you to listen to. Congressman Alan West is going to be joining us on Memorial Day, so that's a real treat. So please don't go away. We'll be right back in 2 minutes.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the Sea of Abaco, the smiling coast I know, only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host every day, Rick Trader, and I'm John Mosley, your co-host for today. And we return again with our guest from the Institute for Electrical and Electronics Engineers, Publication Spectrum, Robert Sherritt, and we want to talk about immigration, the labor market for high-tech workers and STEM jobs. I wanted to go back. Where did this idea... Well, first of all, I'm going to take a detour from what I said because you had a really interesting YouTube when I was looking for a bio up, and you made this point about every country thinks we're falling behind every other country. Why don't you explain that?
Well, if you go and take a look at the cries of a STEM crisis, you can go to almost every single country who looks and says, well, we're behind because look at how many engineers that the United States or Britain or Singapore or China is putting out. You can go to India and they'll say, well, look at all the, we're behind because take a look at all the engineers that China or the U.S. or Britain or Australia. And each country, basically, it's kind of this game of who has the biggest STEM crisis. And, the propaganda is kind of amazing. If you take a look, there is, we have to acknowledge that, STEM workers do add a lot to innovation in countries. But if you get to a certain point where you're overproducing them, then what you end up doing is discouraging future STEM workers. We've seen this happen in the U.S. We've seen this happen in other countries. For instance, with the dot-com bust in the year 2000, 2001, we saw this massive drop-off in computer scientists and programmers and engineers because we had overproduced those, promising them there was work that disappeared. And now, of course, because we've kind of cried wolf, we're now claiming that we have this shortage. But again, the numbers just don't add up. Now, there are certain industries that there are spot shortages. The favorite one of those who say that there's a shortage is petroleum engineers, where they say, take a look at the starting salaries of undergraduate petroleum engineers. They're $96,000 as their starting salary, which is a hefty starting salary. But if you go back to 1996, the starting salary was only $62,000, and the reason is because the petroleum industry was in a massive slump since the mid '80s, and had fired lots and lots of the people, and couldn't encourage anybody to get into the petroleum industry. Once oil started costing more, once the price of oil started pushing past $20 and going to 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, up to 100, then all of a sudden fields that weren't profitable to explore or exploit now became profitable, and all of a sudden they needed all these engineers that they didn't have. So it's kind of interesting that industry seems to wash its hands of any of its responsibilities of creating these supposed shortages.
And in terms of the boom and bust cycle, which to economists should be familiar, I think it's informally called the hog cycle because the farmers' experience. But I thought it was amusing that everybody thinks that they're falling behind everybody else, and of course you're obviously saying that an education in these fields is a good thing. It's just a good thing not to get it wrong. Why don't you compare that in your YouTube version, question and answer on this report? You mentioned Netflix, and I thought that was very informative. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think that, again, if you take a look at the folks in Silicon Valley who recently, a number of them, got an arrangement to drop, have a lawsuit dropped against them for wage suppression. They're always complaining that they have a shortage, and yet Netflix doesn't have a shortage. And what the reason they don't have a shortage is that they do what the economists tell them to do, which is you pay more money. So they pay 10 to 20% more in salary than the other Silicon Valley companies, and they don't have a problem getting engineers to go work for them. So, economists will tell you that there really isn't a such thing as a shortage in terms that if you pay, you will get the motivations of people coming, and they will come and study. That's what's happened in the petroleum industry. If you pay undergraduates $90,000 to $100,000 as their first starting job, you're going to get a lot of people who are going to be interested in pursuing that field.
Yeah, well, that I'm tempted to jump in there because that's a whole other concept. If people don't really seem to understand how economics works in terms of that. But before we get, since we only have a few more minutes, where did this whole idea get started from? Other than the just we're all falling behind everybody. Was there ever any basis for this idea?
Well, it's hard to say that there's ever been a basis for this idea. You can draw this. You can easily find cries of a shortage all the way into the Depression. The real push in more modern times was after World War II, especially with Sputnik, where there was this massive cry that the U.S. was falling behind the Russians, and then after that, it was falling behind the Japanese, and after that, it's now behind the Chinese and Indians. But even in '57, which is interesting, is that there was a study by Blank and Stigler, who later won the Nobel Prize in economics, basically saying that no, there wasn't a shortage. There isn't a shortage of scientists or engineers. There hasn't been one since the end of World War II, even though there was a lot of talk that there was. And that report got swamped by the launch of Sputnik. The launch came out literally a few months after their report came out. So this is just one of these things that's cyclic. Michael Teitelbaum has a new book that just came out that looked at in depth at this kind of boom and bust phase that seems to occur every 15 to 20 years.
Actually, my father got caught up in that. He went to Georgia Tech and then MIT because of after Sputnik, and then by the time he graduated, there were too many engineers. He became a doctor. This happened. So, but in the current round of things, am I wrong that this whole issue that we've got this crisis is these big businesses with big checkbooks saying that anecdotally they can't hire people? Is the argument on the other side totally anecdotal, or is that unfair?
Well, I think again, if you look at particular specialties, there are probably shortages, and there's also, even if there wasn't a shortage, say you want to hire the best and the brightest. Well, not every single person in the United States is necessarily the best and the brightest for every single technical job that exists. That's silly to say that, right?
And can I interrupt there?
Sure.
Because as a lawyer, there is a special program for extraordinary abilities. And right now, and I've done that. If there's a super genius somewhere, I could file the paperwork right now and get them in the States, no problem, no need for any immigration reform. Go ahead.
Right. But when you get past that, then it's a matter of money. Okay, if you take a look at most of the visas that are coming in that are being used by companies, they're being used by Indian outsourcing companies. So this is it's about money. No employer wants to pay more than they have to. And the H-1B visa program, which was built on false premises back in the late 1980s and early 1990s, has morphed from kind of this, let's get the best and the brightest, the genius, the Einstein types in, to just being a cheap labor force. And in fact, if you look at writings by Alan Greenspan or by Becker, the guy who just the Nobel Prize winner who just in economics just died recently, basically both of them have said that they think that STEM wages are too high and they need to be driven down, and they need to, and it may hurt individuals, but hey, it's good for the country. So
that's insane. I mean, I took economics. That would be like, you'd shriek in horror to hear something, because there's no such thing as too high or too low. There's only supply and demand.
Right, but
there isn't anything else but supply and demand.
Yeah, but that's not the position that they would like to take. They would, again, if you open the doors to a global group and you say, all right, who's willing to come here and work at whatever wage we can pay you, then whether or not it be STEM workers or somebody else, those wages are going to come under pressure. So if that's what the administration wants, then it should just be open about it. If it's kind of ridiculous to say, well, we want to increase the number of STEM students in the United States and the number of STEM teachers, without also saying, all right, say in the year 2020 we're not going to have any more H-1B visas at all because we are moving to close that gap. But over the last, here we are, I don't know how many years now, 23 years of an H-1B visa program, and that gap never seems to close for some reason.
You know, we're going to run out of time here, and it's a shame because I wanted to get into how, you know, what is the whole basis. Maybe we'll have you, as this develops, maybe see if you can come back and try to see if you're going to, as an engineer, if you were going to try to fix this problem, you know, what are the human resources directors doing wrong and that kind of thing. But we're out of time. Where can people, I guess we have about 30 seconds, where can people follow this, get the article, and follow what your work is saying on this?
Well, they can go to IEEE Spectrum's website, and it's at spectrum.ieee.org, and they'll easily find it once they get there. And we have plenty of articles on different aspects of the crisis and what people are saying, as well as a lot of commentary against it from those who are claiming that it's a national crisis and that the country is at risk if we don't take massive action. So
I think I found your question and answer on YouTube, searching Robert, Charette. Is that right?
That's right.
All right, and it was a very good thing. All right, we got a break. I'm sorry this went so.
Leader in production systems technology, to be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology. It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Benier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And this is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening Eastern Time, please log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. And at 5 p.m. when we end our live broadcast this afternoon, you could hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show at cprworldwidemedia.com, cprworldwidemedia.com. And you could also hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon at vigilantlibertyradio.us. And don't forget, you can hear our show anytime, day or night, from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Call using your cell phone or any phone where you have unlimited access, because there is no extra charge for this call. So, Jonathan Mosley, the last thing I'd like to say before we go on to our next guest, you know, this coming Monday is Memorial Day. We're going to have a very special Memorial Day program, and featured in that program will be an interview with Congressman Alan West. So make sure you join us this coming Monday, Memorial Day. And with that, John Mosley, our next guest, is with us. Please make the introduction.
Well, that sounds fabulous. Yes, we have now with us David Zuniga, who is the founder of America Again, ! A political reform movement. He has been a consulting engineer and former cattleman, commercial and residential contractor, and many things. David Zuniga wrote the first draft America Again declaration in 2006 and refined it over the years with constitutionalist Mike Church and former author and well-known legal scholar Edwin Vera, Jr. David Zuniga wrote his book more recently, This Bloodless Liberty, in 2010, conveying his vision for America Again, and we want to talk about his book. Welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, David Zuniga.
Hi, John. How are you?
Fine. And again, am I pronouncing your last name right?
It's Zuniga.
Zuniga. I thought I had something in the back of my mind. It was different. Thanks. Well, you have this book, This Bloodless Liberty, which is up on Amazon, and I believe, and you sent it a copy to me, and got too many interesting things in here. We probably won't be able to get through even a smidgen of all this, but you had part of your book, only part, goes through the 10 lies. You say Congress tells us, but I think as you read it, it's more than just Congress telling us these 10 lies. And some of them are really interesting. We're going to be able to get through just a few of these. And I wondered if we could start. I was really torn about taking them out of order, but I'm just tempted to. So I wonder if we could start with number 3, I think, is something that would be really interesting. Again, I think number 1 is something that our audience knows, that our rights don't come from government, the other way around. But you have some things in here that I think are really novel, new that people need to hear. So tell us about lie number 3 there.
Thanks, John. I will. Lie number 3 is that judicial review is only federal. And that is really what, in your profession, of course, that is sort of written in stone. And the book that really opened my eyes to the fact that is a lie was a book called The People Themselves, written by then Dean of Stanford Law School, Larry Kramer. And he's now works for a foundation or something. But Professor Kramer, or Dean Kramer, basically, that book lays out the thesis and then hammers it home in 400 pages that we, the people, are the very highest rule, the very highest authority as far as deciding what the Constitution says. And of course that makes sense if you know basic history, or even if you just read the first 3 words of the Constitution. We, the people, we precede the Constitution, we, the people, and we, the states. The sovereigns preceded the document, the law that made the federal government. So obviously we do. We created that government. It's our creature. We're its creator. And so we, the people, do rule. And so when in 1803, in the case Marbury v. Madison, the Supreme Court said that, well, actually it was just a dictum. It wasn't a part of the case, Marbury v. Madison, but essentially the idea came down about judicial review being a federal function. And this was a new idea that when we get into a battle between state and federal, the Supreme Court gets to come in and say, no, this is the way it is.
And there's nothing in the Constitution about that.
There's nothing in the Constitution about that. And in fact, if you think of how Article 3, and you as an attorney, you know all this stuff, but your listeners don't. Article 3, the first section of Article 3 basically says, okay, we the people, we're establishing a court. We're talking now, Article 3 is about the judicial branch of government. So we say, we the people are establishing a court, U.S. Supreme Court. Oh, and Congress, you can have some federal courts too. You can establish that. So the federal courts, inferior to the Supreme Court, those all belong to Congress. Those federal courts belong to Congress. They can shut them down. They can start new ones. They can do whatever they like. Those are Congress's federal courts, not ours. Now, we go to those federal courts with all kinds of cases, but when it comes to a battle between us and our wild, crazy, lawless servants, you don't go to the court that belongs to the servants that are breaking the law and go say, hey, can you adjudicate this matter? What do you think they're going to say? The federal courts are always going to throw you out on your keister and say, no, the Congress is right. So we have...
And part of what you're discussing there that I'd never thought about before, there is discussions that the idea that only the Supreme Court decides what the Constitution means, that's a bit of dispute. But then you prompted the issue, where did the state courts get into this?
Yes.
Who says that the U.S. federal Supreme Court gets to overrule the state courts?
That's right. Now let's go back now to the way this system is built. We started by saying we the people. Okay. So we're kind of the kings. We're the top dog in this thing. We're the apex sovereigns, you might call us. But we have to do this collectively. We're not all kings individually. We can't do anything about these criminals in D.C., right? We have to do this together. So, but how do we actually bring these criminals, these individual members of Congress, how do we bring them under our aegis, our legal authority? Well, we have courts too. Those are the criminal courts in the states, and you as a defense attorney, you're much more familiar. You're very familiar with them. Those criminal courts can adjudicate any crime committed by one member. Let's say here in Texas, a resident of Texas commits a crime against his fellow Texans. He's brought to the courts of Texas, and penal sanctions are attached if he's tried and convicted. Okay, so why don't we divide and conquer these criminals that are just taking us to the clean? Why don't we do that way? That's what, and I got this idea from the 28th Federalist paper written by Alexander Hamilton, and he was actually talking in another connection entirely. He was talking about the new federal military that they were trying to pitch, to the people of New York with this new Constitution. And what Hamilton says in the 28th Federalist is, well, don't worry, people of New York, because if you'll just ratify this new Constitution, if the federal government ever becomes tyrannical, and of course I'm heavily abridging what he said, or the way he said it, but said if they ever become tyrannical, the people and the states, the people can bring the state in and they will preponderate. Similarly, if the state ever becomes tyrannical, the people will go and bring in the federal servant, and the people again will preponderate. So that was his warranty language in the 28th Federalist. He's basically this big Federalist. Hamilton was big time central government person. He was saying, oh, don't worry. This new federal government's not a problem. It can never take control. The people will always beat it.
Let's transit. is that I think you may make yourself a target with some of the ways you want to go about this, but more power to you if you succeed here. But in number 4, you talk about whether or not members of Congress are immune from state law, and of course, clearly they're not, because if somebody takes a bag of cash in exchange for their vote, they're not immune from prosecution for that.
Right. Yeah, sovereign immunity in Langford v. United States is an 1879 case that the court basically said, counsel for this claimant makes a very ingenious argument that some maxim from English constitutional law, that the king can do no wrong, applies here. And the court says, understand either in reference to the government of the U.S. or of the several states or of any of their officers that the English maxim has any existence in this country, unquote. That comes from Langford. In 1879, they basically, the court was saying, and again, this is our court. This is our federal court. This is the people's federal court, the U.S. Supreme Court, said, look, if you commit a crime, you do the time. It doesn't matter. No one is immune. So there's certainly not immunity in the case of criminal activity. So again, it's just a matter of how do we do this. We've never tried it this way. Actually, in 2010, Texas, the criminal courts of Texas did convict Tom DeLay, who was, at the time he did, allegedly did these things. They were small. It's like $100,000, I don't know what, financial crimes. But at the time he did those crimes, he was the second highest member of the House of Representatives. Now, he was busted on 2 counts, and again, that was a state criminal court convicting a member of Congress.
For things during the course of his job in Congress.
During
about
the
30
course,
seconds.
They didn't couch it in terms of being during the course of his job. It was an election thing. It had to do with money laundering, but that's not the particulars of that case aren't as important to me anyway, in terms of setting precedent, as the fact that a state criminal court did go after a member of Congress and get him. So I mean, at least it's been done. We know it's been done relatively.
Okay, we have to take a 2-minute break. We're talking about 10 lies from Congress from this bloodless liberty. We have to go to a 2-minute break. Rick Trader.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCR studios, that of WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia. The way we do, Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and around the world on the internet via CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, VigilantLibertyRadio.us, and don't forget to check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com and CCRShow.com. Please don't go away. John and I will be right back with more with our guest.
They say I'm nasty, but oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Everyday Rick Trader, and I'm John Mosley, your co-host for today. And our guest is David Zuniga, author of This Bloodless Liberty, and also the founder of America Again, an exclamation mark. And we were talking about his book, This Bloodless Liberty. And let's see, I wanted to go through, I think your line number 5 is probably one of the most important issues facing our country, but it's the idea that everything is interstate commerce. But that's so huge, and we have had some discussion of it. I think I'm going to put that off. We could do a whole segment on that alone. Something that's unique, though, that you go into, some other things that I want to talk to you about are your number 6, which I'm trying to find here again, if you recall, and jump into on that.
Oh, general welfare means that the founders were socialists.
Right, welfare. The meaning of welfare. This is so so maddening to me.
Yeah, John. First, let me backtrack just a little bit and give
No
our
problem.
website address again. It's AmericaAgainNow.com. All one word, AmericaAgainNow.com. On that website, if you go to our blog, you'll find one of the blog articles has my book in PDF, and you just click on it, and you can download the book for free. So,
wow.
The book is available. We're not trying to make money off the book. We're trying to get the word out that, as hard as this will be to believe, John, in the first chapter of my book, I make this statement, and then I support it throughout the book. This is the most exciting, potentially the greatest time, the best time to be alive in American history. This time, our time. I know that's exactly, antithetical to everything you hear today, but if you understand that, for instance, 150 years ago, there was a man who was taking New York City by storm. The intelligentsia of New York City loved this guy. His name was Karl Marx. He was the foreign correspondent, the darling of the New York Tribune, owned by Horace Greeley. Now, people don't know that Marx had this impact on New York City. They don't realize that Marx, he gained credence in the West through Greeley, through Horace Greeley, and through the New York Tribune, and through, guess who? His good friend and correspondent, Abe Lincoln. He was a Marxist. Now, there are books on our website. There are many writings about many blog articles about this. One of them is appended to Lincoln on his birthday, and if you go to that, it's something like "Happy Birthday, America's Hijacker." I show 4 books. I show the covers of the books. I explain the books. 4 books that explain that this is the real Lincoln. He was a monster, and we don't know this. In fact, we know the opposite. I also have a link in there to International Socialist Review magazine. You can go straight to the article and see the socialists themselves telling you what a great socialist Lincoln was. I say all of that to say this. We have been 9 or 10-point Marxists for over a century. We've been communists for over a century. Our government has been. Now, people don't know this because they haven't read the 1848 manifesto, the Communist Manifesto of Marx. So they think that Obama is the end of America. It's not. Obama is the kicking, screaming end of the dinosaur of American communism, and we are now going to see, I believe, America again will help to bring in the best, the real American century. The last one, by the way, was not the American century. It was the American century for the military-industrial complex, but not for constitutional,
Well,
republic.
David Zuniga, it is interesting. People don't understand that being a socialist or a communist was not a shameful thing.
No, it wasn't shameful.
When they were popular, it was the latest fad. It was cool. It was new, and and so when we talk about some of these things,
it hadn't been disproven, so it wasn't. I mean, Marx was a good enough guy. Everybody thought, wow, he and Lincoln both want the same kinds of things. All I'm saying is, when you go back and see how long we have been in these chains, if you want to call them chains, led by criminals, by cartels who own and control D.C. It's been more than a century. It's been a very long time.
But now we have seen the bad consequences. There's no excuse for anybody now.
Well, we have, and when you have a criminal, for instance, with our money, I mean, 152 years of counterfeiting is long enough, for goodness sakes. We've got to stop this. And we say, well, how do we stop it? Well, for one thing, you split them up. We have the America Again indictment engine is only 1/3 of what America Again is about. That's kind of the pointy stick that we want to use to get Congress to now start serving us as they should and not serving the cartels as they have been. The second thing is 20 reform laws. We don't just want to take these laws up there and say, oh, would you pass these? No, we want to use these as either an immunity deal for the guys we haven't nabbed yet or as a plea bargain for the ones who are already under indictment. In other words, you force it on them. You force it on them and say...
Well, and David, see, my concern about that a little bit is just that they're going to try to you're giving them an opportunity to get you and say that you're engaging in blackmail. But
it looks like extortion or what. And it will say, hey...
Well, let me finish, because I think, like you say, but on the other hand, somebody who is handed a bag of cash on the Senate floor clearly is not immune from that. And if you say, here are laws you can't violate, I would like to see you can't lie to the voters. If you say you're going to vote for something to the voters and you don't, we're going to lock you up. I wouldn't mind that, but
John,
it's go ahead.
We are saying you can't violate the Constitution. Period. That's it. All of the items that we have in our of those. Oh, the first one of those 20, by the way, is we bring them home. With the technology that we have, the virtual office and virtual meeting technology available today, there is no reason that those 435 congressmen and 100 senators need to be ganging up on us over there with all of their friends and their rulers, and all of us are. Oh, and by the way, we already pay for their office in their district. So we've got this other office already staffed and everything, and they're over there conspiring against us daily. Well, what is that? So the first of the 20 reforms is you come home. You serve us from here where we can watch you, we can oversee you. So we have the indictment engine. This is the way that we're going to get them to obey the law. The state courts will get the individuals in Congress to simply obey the law. In cases where Congress is violating the U.S. Constitution, the state court is a higher jurisdictional authority than the federal courts. And I tried to establish that early in our conversation. You'll have to go to my book to establish it for yourself.
Oh, let me just say that your book is just like dangling a Thanksgiving dinner in front of there is so much interesting stuff in your book. I encourage people to read it.
And it's tiny. It's a small book. It's 96 pages. Now, the ancillary materials in the back, of which, by the way, 41 books. I synopsize 41 really great books that I think people need to read. And, I give you a synopsis of them. Those are all in there. So there's a lot of stuff in there, John, and thank you very much that you think the book is... It's a very small book. But the third thing that America Again will do is, we call it America Again Minutemen. It's essentially a resource, a national resource, bringing the neonascent, the newly born militias, together and bringing people into their local militia. And I'm not talking about toothless gun nuts that want to do, vigilante action. I'm talking about people who do want to first go to their state legislature and assure that the legislature obeys Article 1, Section 8, Clause 16, and provides officers and provides material and support for the citizen militia, which is the constitutional homeland security that we should have always had. So that's the third part. We bring the people now that are ranting and raving about losing their guns. Well, heck, you don't even know how to use your guns in tactical form. You don't know how to protect or defend your neighborhood, and you certainly don't know how to muster together with.
We're out of time. Let's try to have you back and maybe talk about number 5, the interstate commerce, sometime, and maybe some of these other details. But unfortunately, this
great.
Time flew by. Again, your website, and we got to go.
AmericaAgainNow.com.
AmericaAgainNow.com, and get the book there. Thank you so much, David Zuniga. Let's have you back. Thanks, Trader.
You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan and Rick, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, and of course around the world on the internet. Please don't go away. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with Jim Jacobson from the Christian Freedom International.
That's not where I got feel. They say I'm nasty, but
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Benier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, everyday Rick Trader, and I am your host for today, co-host John Mosley. And we want to bring in our next guest. James Jacobson is president and founder of Christian Freedom International. He has assisted the persecuted church in many restricted countries around the world. He has faced personal danger to deliver Bibles to underground churches in China, care packages to families in the brickyards of Pakistan, and medical aid to refugees in the war zones of Burma. He has testified and conducted briefings before Congress, the White House, and the State Department on behalf of Christians who are persecuted for their faith each year. At the invitation of First Lady Laura Bush, Mr. Jacobson participated in the Dialogue on Burma, a roundtable discussion conducted during the September 2009 UN General Assembly. Most of our guests, so I have to cut short their many accomplishments to make sure we hear from them, but this activism follows quite a distinguished series of jobs in government, where I met him, and we will welcome James Jacobson to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. Welcome, Jim.
Hey, John. It's good to speak with you again. Long time. It's been a long time since we spoke.
Absolutely. Now your office sent James, but you go by Jim. Is that fair to say?
I go by Jim. I sure do. Yeah, Jim is my name.
Yeah. Well then.
And the same with you. You go, Jonathan, but I know it's John. We've been old friends for a long time.
Exactly. My bio these days in politics talks about the lost years, my 5 years in the U.S. Department of Education, during which you can like John Mosley, the lost years. And I think you were a bright spot in some of those lost years. And you're a very funny guy, but unfortunately this is, of course, a somber subject here that you've been working on for quite a long time, and I'm very impressed by your activism. You had some press releases and some specific targets of focus that you're working on right now, and sent out a press release. And why don't we start there, what you're pushing on right now?
Well, the big issue right now for us, John, is to try to secure the release of 2 American citizens, one being held in prison in Iran, and the other currently held in North Korea. And these are Americans, and they are in prison for nothing more or less than their Christian faith. And we think it's shameful. We think it's terrible. It's an international embarrassment for our country that these 2 men remain in prison. Not much is being done about it by the administration, and we're trying to do everything we can to raise awareness of their case, to free these 2 individuals, to free these 2 Christian men, because it's wrong. It's a violation of fundamental, basic human rights that these men are in prison for their Christian faith. And it's time that our government starts to do everything it can to secure their release and to start to speak out about it. Now, some members of Congress are doing that, and we just delivered thousands of petitions to Congressman Frank Wolf from Virginia, who's been a real strong advocate for many years for religious liberty around the world. But I think it's really just words cannot express how terrible I feel that our State Department and this White House, how little they have done to help secure the release of these two Christians who are in prison, one in Iran, the other in North Korea, simply because they're Christians.
Yeah, Frank Wolf, unfortunately, is retiring. He's just to kind of illustrate that things can be done. He has a reputation for going into countries and going to underground churches and going to visit people who are persecuted, and so giving heartburn to the State Department, but going direct there, and shows how one man can do something, but most don't. Now, a lot of what's going on in our world today, it's just hard to believe. When you say that they're persecuted for their Christian faith, see if can you back that up and convince us that that. What's the details there?
Okay, the Saeed Abedini, he's an American, a naturalized citizen, and he was born in Iran. He's a pastor, 33 years old, and he made frequent trips to Iran to help distribute Bibles, to help underground churches, help Christians there, new converts to Christianity in Iran, to grow in their faith. And on this trip he made in July of 2012, he was there to help construct an orphanage. And it was not a Christian orphanage, but just a secular orphanage. But the authorities there picked him up and arrested him. And they never really made any official charges, but it was because of his Christian activities. And so he's been in prison ever since, and he's been given real harsh treatment. In fact, we just put out another press release today that Saeed has been beat again in prison. And he's suffered several beatings, and we're concerned that if we don't continue to raise awareness, that this man is going to be killed while in prison. And really, there's no official charges against him, so he's being held indefinitely. We don't know how long he could be detained or anything, and it's just an awful situation. The prisons in Iran are not like American prisons. They're just awful conditions. This husband, pastor, father of two children has to go through and endure day in and day out. The same thing with the American man being held in North Korea, Kenneth Bae, 44 years of age. He had a tourist business where he took Christian tours into North Korea, not making any big deal out of it or anything like that. But he was caught and arrested in November of 2012, and they declared him to be sort of an enemy of the state and put him in prison, and he's facing very harsh conditions in a re-education through forced labor camp. And his health has deteriorated, and he could die if something is not done and to secure his release. So we're trying to do everything we can. Here's the thing. Really, religious liberty is the fundamental, the basic human right that all other rights spring out of. If you don't have freedom of religion, you don't have any other freedom. You don't have freedom of speech. You don't have freedom of mobility, freedom of the press or anything. So when a government can tell you what you can or cannot believe, when the government or the state says you have to believe this way or go to prison or face execution, then you don't have any other right whatsoever. And we believe, and so do anybody concerned about freedom and human rights, freedom of religion is the fundamental, most basic right. A man or woman should have the right to believe or not to believe anything they want in their heart. And no government has or should have the power to take that away or try to impose something on you. And that's exactly what they're doing in these cases. In the pastor who's in prison in Iran, he could be released if he simply converts to Islam. But this man is not going to do it. This pastor is not going to convert to Islam. And so he remains there incarcerated for his faith. And we're just really trying to raise awareness to keep this issue alive so that these men just don't simply fade off into the shadows and die. We want their release. We want it now.
Well, Jim, we have about 1 minute before a 2-minute break, but it was interesting that, people might wonder, well, what is the other side of the story? And I gather that at least with the pastor in Iran, there isn't another side of the story because he hasn't been charged with anything. But if they would let him go, if he converted, it looks pretty clear that he's being held for being a Christian, not for necessarily doing Christian things, just for being a Christian.
Well, that's right. For being a Christian. And Iran is a country where apostasy, if you are a Muslim and you convert to another religion, you could face capital punishment. Apostasy is a crime, but he wasn't convicted for apostasy or anything of that nature, but simply, as you say, for being a Christian. There's no real official charge. And again, the United States, really, we have to speak out, number one, for religious freedom around the world. And number two, when we have American citizens, our own people, being held, not for a drug conviction, not for arms smuggling, not for theft or something like that, but simply for a religious liberty issue, and they're being held.
Okay, can you hold on for a 2-minute break, Jim?
Sure thing.
Okay, go ahead, Rick Trader.
All right, we are going to take that break right now. You're listening to Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station. The way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, and around the world on the internet via CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, VigilantLibertyRadio.us, and now you can listen to our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Please don't go away. On the other side, John and I are going to continue our conversation with Jim Jacobson from Christian Freedom International.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, the smiling coast I know, only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today, the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and yours truly, Rick Trader. And our guest this segment is James B. Jacobson. We're going to call him Jim. He's the president and founder of Christian Freedom International. Jim, thanks for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Jim, you know, reading your biography that John forwarded to me, a couple of things really caught my attention. that you assisted delivering Bibles to places like in China and care packages to families in Pakistan. And Jim, the reason I bring this up, you and John were talking about the government shouldn't tell you what to and what not to believe in, and that we have to speak out for our religious freedom. And Jim, we Christians are even under attack in our country. And just to give you an example, for more than a decade, new military recruits at the Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama would receive Bibles from the Gideons, okay? And the Air Force has now stopped them from doing that. So, can we make the connection, Jim, that it's not far off, that it's going to be more and more difficult for people in this country to get Bibles, just like it is in China these days? Am I going too far off the beaten path here, Jim?
Well, you know, what you're talking about is a slippery slope, and that is when good people do nothing. And you're not far off the mark at all. And if we don't just stand up and start doing things for people like this American in Iran and this American in North Korea who are being held there for their faith, when we're silent about it, when we don't care anymore, when we're apathetic, then things start to happen, and we start to lose our freedoms. And these things don't happen overnight. Nobody is going to come tomorrow with a gun and try to take your Bibles from you or anything like that, but it's slowly. And there's a drip every day of losing a little bit more of our freedom. And that should concern everybody. And it's sort of like the frog being slowly boiled, you know?
Well, that is exactly what's happening, Jim. We are the frog that's being slowly boiled. And in my opinion, it started back in the 1960s. The first act was to take Bibles out of school. Now kids can't even pray silently in school in many schools. There was a story that we talked about a week or two ago here on the Conservative Commandos radio show, where a teacher called a parent and chastised the parent for their child saying a prayer in school. So we are on that slippery slope, Jim, and we are being slowly boiled.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of thing is shocking to hear about it in the United States. You know, I live now most of the year in Southeast Asia, and I live in a lot of the time in Burma and in Thailand, and spend a great deal of my time there. And you'd expect that sort of thing in a place in a military dictatorship like Burma or whatever. But you start to hear about it more and more in little cities and towns across America. And I tell you, it really makes the hair on the back of my head start to stand up, because you start adding these cases up one after another, and we have a major problem in our country. We have an erosion of fundamental rights, and it doesn't take very long for these things to add up, and then you have something happening like what's going on in North Korea or Iran. Now, we're a long way from there, but it does happen every single day to Christians around the world, where they're locked up, they face capital punishment, their Bibles are confiscated, their underground churches are broken up, and people are put in forced labor camps and that sort of thing, simply because they're practicing the Christian faith. And so that same hatred of anything Christian is alive and well around the world, and it's occurring here, where you have a systematic day in and day out drumbeat against anything Christian. You see it in the media, in Hollywood, where it's okay to pick on and make fun of anything Christian, and people get desensitized over time. And I think there's been a lot of desensitization going on over the years, where it's okay to pick on and make fun of anything Christian, anything holy that we consider sacred. You know, it's ridiculed. But that should concern Christians and non-Christians alike, because, again, when you start to go after people because of their religious views, and you start to really ostracize or take away these rights, then you start to lose all your rights, all your freedoms, because freedom of religion is first and foremost. It's the basic, fundamental right that all of the rights come out of. And so when that's gone, you've lost everything. So that should concern anybody and everybody in this country.
Well, this is John Mosley again, back with our guest, Jim Jacobson from Christian Freedom International. And we only have, I guess, about 4 minutes left. And I did want to talk about the government again, too, in terms of what's your evaluation of what our State Department is doing or not doing? Is the State Department just institutionally, dormant or unhelpful? Do you see it differently now in recent years?
Yeah, I see sort of a sea change at the State Department. John, we go way back, and I go back to to the Reagan White House days, and something like this just would not. If it happened, it wouldn't. These guys wouldn't be in prison long. You'd always find a way through backdoor channels to get them out, and there's really an animosity toward anything Christian from this State Department, and they're almost hostile toward it, whether it's Christian asylum seekers or Christian refugees, what have you. And it really is alarming to me. If you go to a U.S. consulate or an embassy around the world and try to raise awareness for the plight of somebody who's suffering, they turn a blind eye to and a deaf ear. And I don't like what I'm seeing. I really don't. And I think you have a president who is, disengaged at best on these issues, and perhaps maybe a little bit hostile toward it. So he hasn't filled the post of ambassador for religious liberty, a position at the State Department which serves as a monitor for religious liberty issues around the world. That job's vacant, and there just doesn't seem to be much of a concern about this issue. And I don't like the trend at all.
Well, that's a concern. I mean, I think there's a that's a very, very difficult situation. Remember I think you may be alluding, or they're thinking about the family that came here seeking asylum because they couldn't homeschool their children, and all the way up to the Supreme Court, they were kicked out and I guess sent back to Germany or will be or something like that. So you see, I've always thought the State Department is useless, as we probably talked about. But if it's getting worse, that's a very difficult concern.
Yeah, I mean, you have if you know John Kerry, and I was a staffer on Capitol Hill. I worked for a senator from New Hampshire for a long time, and Gordon Humphrey. He was a great patriot and everything, but John Kerry. He's not somebody that sees evangelical Christian as somebody that is even on the same planet that he's on. He just has disdain for these folks, and it's just not part of who John Kerry is. And so, I'm sure that he's received the reports of these Americans being held, and he's got the reports from a high-level bureaucrat that they're American evangelical Christians, and that's like, for John Kerry, his eyes probably just, roll over and just, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I don't want to touch it. And so I think that's sort of the attitude. And, if he would only see it as a broader, fundamental human right, hopefully he can do something about it. Petition campaigns do work. I just received word today that these 6 Iranian students who made a video of a YouTube video about a pop song called "Happy" by Pharrell Williams. They were put in prison because they made a YouTube video. They did a lip sync song. They were thrown in prison for that. But a hashtag thing went out on Twitter, got a lot of support, and the Iranians released him today.
Well, I hope we do. We got to wrap up now. But where can people contact you and maybe do that with some of the people you're concerned about?
Well, they can go to ChristianFreedom.org, ChristianFreedom.org, and we have a number of petition campaigns that people can sign their name to, and we'll send that off to the White House or to a member of Congress or whatever. But it's time for people to speak up. Speak up while you can, because there may come a time when you can't. So I say speak up while you can. Make your voice heard for those who have no voice, for those who are in prison today. And on that website, you can learn more about these cases and other cases and be a voice for the persecuted.
Thank you so much, Jim Jacobson. We got to go out of time. Christian Freedom International, and that's the website, I guess, ChristianFreedomInternational.org, right?
That's right, John. Thanks a lot.
All right,
Appreciate
thanks.
being here. Bye-bye.
Back to you, Rick Trader.
Okay, and if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening, log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. And we're leaving you now, but at 5 o'clock, if you turn on to or log on to CPRWorldwideMedia.com, you can hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
Thank you for listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Huge thanks to our co-hosts, contributors, patrons, callers, and our friends at WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460, where we broadcast live every Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 to 4 p.m. Central. Look for us on the internet at www.ccrshow.com. Until next time, we are the Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.